What happens when the world's most powerful military machine goes to war with a country that refuses to break? That is the question shaking the Middle East right now. President Donald Trump has been posting cryptic, often explosive warnings on Truth Social, threatening to bomb power plants, destroy bridges, and strike Iran at a much higher level if Tehran does not agree to a deal. And yet, Iran is still standing, still defiant, and still controlling a waterway that carries roughly 20% of the world's daily oil supply. So tonight, I want to walk you through exactly where this conflict stands, how we got here, and what the world is bracing for next. To understand this crisis fully, we need to go back to June 2025. That is when Israel launched what became known as the 12-day war against Iran, a concentrated campaign targeting Iran's military leadership, nuclear scientists, and nuclear facilities. The United States joined those strikes, hitting Iranian nuclear sites during Israel's offensive. The goal was clear: degrade Iran's nuclear program and its missile capabilities before Tehran could cross what Washington and Tel Aviv called the point of no return. Trump told the American public that Iran had rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, adding that they were attempting to rebuild their nuclear program and develop long-range missiles capable of threatening U.S. troops overseas and American allies in Europe. But here is the critical detail that changes the whole picture. A Defense Intelligence Agency assessment from May 2025 stated that Iran could only potentially develop a long-range missile capable of reaching the U.S. by 2035, if it chose to pursue it. So the timeline Trump was presenting to justify immediate military action did not fully align with his own government's intelligence. That gap between the public narrative and the classified reality would become a recurring theme in this conflict. By February 2026, Trump escalated dramatically. Without seeking congressional approval, the U.S. launched a new wave of strikes on Iran. The stated justification was that Iran had been trying to reconstitute the very nuclear infrastructure that the June 2025 strikes had significantly degraded, as the White House's own November 2025 document had described. Iran did not collapse. In fact, it responded. After the U.S. strikes on 3 nuclear sites during Israel's 12-day war in June 2025, Iran attacked Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Though no personnel were killed, a missile did strike a radar dome at the facility. That was a calibrated signal. Iran was willing to hit back, but carefully enough to avoid triggering all-out war on its own terms. Then came the social media dimension, something genuinely unprecedented in the history of military conflict. Trump posted a profanity-laden message on Truth Social warning Iran about the Strait of Hormuz, writing, "Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day," all wrapped up in one, in Iran, and threatening that if Iran did not open the strait, Iranians would be living in hell. The United Nations responded swiftly. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric noted that even if certain civilian infrastructure were to qualify as a military objective, international humanitarian law would still prohibit attacks against it. Meanwhile, the financial impact was already being felt worldwide. According to Sebastian Barrick, head of commodities at Citadel, Trump's Truth Social posts contributed to roughly a 300% surge in oil and gas price volatility during the conflict's opening weeks. And Barrick said he now keeps a dedicated screen solely to monitor the president's social media feed. That is how volatile this situation has become. Wall Street traders are reading presidential posts in real time to predict energy markets. On the ground, the U.S. military launched Project Freedom, an operation designed to escort commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran had effectively disrupted. Iran responded by launching multiple cruise missiles, drones, and small boats at U.S. Navy ships and commercial vessels under American protection. The U.S. military destroyed 6 Iranian boats in the strait, and Trump later said U.S. forces shot down 7 small Iranian vessels. Trump called the U.S. strikes in retaliation a love tap, but the exchange pushed the region to the edge. Then came a stunning intelligence revelation. A confidential CIA report, obtained by the Washington Post, directly contradicted the administration's public claims that Iran was on the verge of collapse. According to the report, Iran still retains approximately 75% of its mobile missile launchers, 70% of its missiles, and is continuing to build more, meaning Iran could survive a naval blockade for 3 to 4 additional months. The costs to the United States have also been significant. The U.S. military has lost 16 MQ-9 Reaper drones near Isfahan alone since the war began. And according to Israeli intelligence assessments reported by the Financial Times, U.S. forces in the Middle East could only sustain 4 to 5 days of intense aerial operations against Iran, or about a week of lower-intensity strikes, before facing serious resource constraints. Diplomatically, there are flickers of movement, but they are fragile. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas al-Raqi traveled to Beijing and described a constructive meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, thanking China for reaffirming Iran's right to uphold national sovereignty and calling on Beijing to play an active role in promoting peace. Pakistan has also stepped up as a mediator. Yet Iran's fundamental position has not shifted. Tehran continues to insist on its right to enrich uranium domestically and has rejected discussing limits on its missile development program. And Trump's own officials are alarmed, not just by Iran's resistance, but by their own president's behavior. Anonymous Trump administration officials, speaking to the Wall Street Journal and CNN, said the president's social media posts were actively hampering efforts to reach a peace deal. One senior analyst summarized the paradox with devastating clarity. Maximum pressure has not produced maximum results. As one expert noted, maximum pressure has not produced surrender from Iran since Trump's first term. In fact, it has produced what Tehran calls maximum resistance. So where does this leave us? The U.S. and Israel have delivered significant blows to Iran's nuclear infrastructure and military capabilities. Iran's supreme leader Khamenei and top officials have been killed. But Iran is still functioning, still firing, and still threatening the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point that, if fully closed, could send oil prices beyond $150 or even $200 per barrel. According to Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman, the danger now is a war that neither side can cleanly end. Trump wants a deal that strips Iran of enrichment capabilities entirely. Iran refuses to surrender that right. A ceasefire exists on paper, but it is tested almost daily. What could have gone differently? Earlier, consistent diplomacy, rather than cycling between threats and olive branches, might have produced a workable nuclear framework. The 2015 nuclear deal, which Trump withdrew from in 2018, had at least kept IAEA inspectors inside Iran's facilities and a monitoring framework in place. The lesson from all of this is that military strikes can degrade capabilities, but they cannot replace political solutions. The to-be-continued warning Trump posted is not just a rhetorical flourish. It is an accurate description of a conflict with no clear ending in sight. So I want to ask you directly, do you think more strikes will force Iran to the table, or will they push Tehran further into defiance? And critically, who bears the real cost when the Strait of Hormuz closes and oil prices spike globally? Leave your thoughts below. Share this with someone who needs to understand what is actually happening here. And let's keep this conversation going.